Welcome back, friends. Sit back, relax, and enjoy another story. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. Appreciate you. They hadn't meant to go off trail. Cam and Lila were experienced hikers. They planned their routes, checked maps, and always brought more water than they needed. But sometimes the forest decides your path. And in the heart of Black Hollow Ridge, the trees don't like to let people go the way they came. Uh, it started with a shortcut, a deer trail, barely visible under the ferns. Cam spotted it just after noon. Lila hesitated. It's not on the map. It loops back around, Cam said. We'll shave off an hour. So they followed it. For a while, it seemed like the right call. The woods were beautiful here, older, untouched. Thick moss blanketed the rocks like velvet. The air smelled like rain and cold iron. But the deeper they went, the quieter it got. No birds, no bugs. Even their footsteps seemed swallowed by the earth. That's when they found the hollow, a perfect sink in the forest floor, as if something had sat there for a long time and finally rose up. Surrounding it, stone spires, too even to be natural, too weathered to be new, and at the center, a black gash in the earth, a cave. Its entrance was low, like a mouth pulled into a cruel grin. Cold air blew from it, sweet, strangely, like rotting fruit left too long in the sun. Lila took a step back. Let's not, she whispered, but Cam was already shining his flashlight inside. Just for a look. Come on. She rolled her eyes as she followed. They stepped inside. The temperature dropped instantly. The beam of Cam's flashlight barely cut through the dark. The walls of the cave weren't smooth. They were lined with tiny indentations, like fingernail marks, like something had crawled along every inch. As they moved deeper, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber, and there they saw her. She sat completely still, hunched in the corner like a collapsed scarecrow. Long, brittle hair hung in clumps over her face. Her fingers were bone thin, threading something between them. It was string, but not made from anything normal. It shimmered, twitched like it was still alive. Lila grabbed Cam's arm. She's not real, he whispered. But then the witch's head snapped up and the wind came. Oh, it shouldn't have been there. Wind. In a cave. Underground. But it howled from behind the witch, rushing through the chamber and carrying with it whispers, not words, names. The witch stood, impossibly tall, once she straightened. Her face was a patchwork of old scars, her eyes covered by gauze that pulsed like skin. Still threading that awful string, she stepped forward, and the wind rose. Cam turned and ran. Lila hesitated, just for a second, too long. The witch lunged, arms unraveling like ropes, and wrapped around her wrist. Pain sank in instantly, not from the grip, but from inside her bones, like she was being pulled apart at the seams. Cam screamed her name and pulled, and somehow she broke free. They ran blindly, the cave seeming to twist and breathe around them. The walls stretched, the ground sloped the wrong way, and all around them that wind followed, dragging threads across their skin, whispering, winding, weaving. They burst out into the hollow, gasping and scraped, eyes wide. But something was wrong. The trees weren't the same. The moss was gone. The light had changed, too golden, too dim, like a day trapped in late autumn, and the path behind them gone. No trail, no footprints, only the cave mouth, sealed now as if it had never opened. They tried to retrace their steps, north, always north, but every direction led to her. They saw her in the shadows, heard the whisper of thread unraveling through the leaves, and worse, they started seeing things stitched into the trees, teeth, fingers, a braid of black hair woven through a knot in the bark, and always that wind. Lila stopped first. She crouched by a fallen log, staring. Cam, why is my name on this? Carved into the wood. Fresh was her name. Over and over, and below it, sewn and claimed, they ran again. That night, they found a hunter's shack, long abandoned but still dry. They barricaded the door, lit a fire, and kept their backs to the wall. The wind circled the shack, scratching the wood. Sometimes it spoke in full. One pulled free, one still bound. Trade the thread, or both go down. Lila sat shaking. Cam held her hand and didn't tell her the truth. When she'd been grabbed, when the witch touched her, something slid under her skin. Not just the pain, something is still moving, threading its way through her veins. And in the firelight, he could see the faint shimmer across her wrist, like thread wound beneath the flesh. She never noticed, but he did. Um, Morning never came. The forest didn't turn blue with dawn. The light stayed orange, suspended, wrong. The trees circled tighter, and somewhere, deeper in, the witch wove her thread, patient, precise, because in the hollow where she waits, time isn't a straight line, it's a loop of thread, winding, stretching, pulling you back, and once she's touched you, you don't leave. You just unravel slowly. The wind pressed against the shack all night, like a beast sniffing through the cracks. Lila didn't sleep, neither did Cam. By morning, Cam made a decision. He watched Lila's arm. The shimmering thread was spreading up her wrist, past her elbow. She didn't feel it. She thought she was fine, but he knew. She was already part of the tapestry. The witch didn't need both of them. The whispers had said it. Trade the thread, or both go down. So he did something cruel. He made her stay behind. He waited until she drifted to uneasy sleep, took his pack, left a note that said, "I'll find help. Stay in the cabin. I'll come back for you." She never even stirred, but the forest did. As he stepped outside, the wind paused. It watched. No voice, no tugging, just permission. He didn't run. He walked carefully, eyes forward. The forest changed. The moss returned. The air warmed. Bird song. And just like that, he was on the trail again. When he finally emerged from the Gallow Pine woods, he was alone. No shimmer on his skin, no whispers in his ears, no Lila. Rescue teams went in, of course. They found the shack, found her bag, her jacket, and her boots, but not her, only the faint smell of iron and ash, and carved into the wooden floor where she last slept, unraveled. Cam never spoke about it, not to the press, not to the police, but if you find him now, older, quiet, always watching the trees, you'll notice something. He never walks near the wind, never opens a window when it storms, because some nights he hears the whisper again. You gave her back. As always, friends, Thanks so much for watching.